Well, thank you for coming. First, I want to thank the Rancho Santa Fe School District for sponsoring this forum and for inviting the League of Women Voters of North County, San Diego to conduct the forum. We come together to inform the community about the 4 candidates who wish to fill 2 seats on the Rancho Santa Fe School District Board of Trustees. My name is Ronnie C., and I'm your moderator tonight, and I've been a League member for many, many years. The League, I'll just keep this short, but anyway, the League is a 102-year-old nonpartisan organization dedicated to encouraging informed and active participation in government. We also work to influence public policy through education and advocacy. And this is important. The League never supports or opposes any political party or any candidate for public office. All the candidates have agreed to the ground rules of this forum, and they've signed the agreement. They have agreed to the League's video recording policy. The forum is owned and sponsored by the League of Women Voters of North County, San Diego. Anyone who's permitted to video record or stream a forum is authorized to air it only in its entirety. Only licensed media, including TV, radio, and newspapers, are entitled by FCC regulations to air portions of the forum. Now I'm asking you all to turn off your cell phones, if that's possible. We're so wedded to them, it's really hard to turn them off, but I'm really asking you to please do that. This forum is indeed being recorded, and the League plans to put the video recording of this forum in its entirety on the League website. So if some of your friends or relatives that had planned to come or were busy or out of town or whatever want to watch it, they can watch it, the whole forum on a video on our League of Women Voters website. This way we can reach a lot more people than in a room like this
and
today.
We can share that link, right?
Excuse me?
You're okay
Yes.
with us sharing the link of the video?
I will in a second, or
Thanks.
before you leave. Now about the format. All candidates have been invited to this forum. They're Kali Kim, Jee Manghani, Paul Seitz, and Cristian Zarcu. In order to avoid any conflict of interest, none of the League team working here tonight live or vote in this district. The audience is invited to submit written questions and hand them in to the runners. Can the runners hand? Okay. And if you need a pencil or another card or something, just raise your hand and one of the runners will bring a card to you. Now I'll sound like a school teacher. Please write clearly and choose one card per question. If you need a card or a pencil, raise your hand. Okay. First, the candidates will make a 2-minute opening statement. Their order of speaking and the order in which they're sitting was determined by lot. The timer will give them a 30-second warning, and yes. And then she'll hold up a stop sign when their time is up. We sincerely ask you to hold your applause and avoid any disruption. This is a forum and not a political rally. And we ask the audience to be quiet, partly because it cuts into the time allowed for the candidates to speak. All right. The first person to give her opening statement is Ms. Kim.
Good evening. I grew up in Montana. After college, I moved to California and obtained my CPA license. My last professional position was with PricewaterhouseCoopers in the LA office. We have lived in Rancho Santa Fe for over 11 years. Last year, I had a lifer graduate from Roger Rowe and currently have a 4th grader at the school. During my last 9 years at Roger Rowe, I have prioritized supporting the foundation and the district with my time and donating at the highest Scholar Circle level. Accomplishments I am proud of during my last term a balanced budget that plans for the future, school open full-time and in person during the pandemic, adoption of math and science curriculums for K through 8, and social science curriculum for middle school, expert teaching model in 3rd through 5th grade, ELA critical literacy work in kindergarten through 5th, implementation of early identifier for reading difficulties, beginning social emotional learning work and hiring a school counselor, increase campus security by implementing security advisors' recommendations, strategic planning process, which includes all stakeholder voices, is underway. In this next year, I want focus on our middle school to implement best learning practices, particularly from charter and private schools, to challenge our students at all levels, focusing in on critical thinking skills in all subject areas and bring in project-based learning to engage our students. During my next term, I will continue to advocate to build an inclusive school community that is global in perspective, embracing transparency with impactful parent involvement.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Zarku.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this event tonight, and all of you for being here as well. My name is Cristian Zarcu, and I've lived in the ranch with my wife and my 3 boys for the past 5 years. I'm running for the board because all of our children deserve better. Our community has the resources to provide a public school with private education expectations and also achievements. We have the lowest teacher-to-student ratio around for any public school. We remained open during the pandemic, and we have the most generous group of parents and donors, contributing hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, as well as countless hours of their time. So my question to you all is, should it not be number 1, the top scoring school in all San Diego? If we provide more dollars per student, why do we fall behind La Jolla and Carmel Valley schools when their class sizes are larger and their enrollment numbers are 4 or 5 times higher than ours? There's only one answer to me: our leadership. If I'm elected, I will focus on hiring a new superintendent who understands their job is to manage resources, staff, to provide an outcome acceptable to the parents of the school. In this case, that is to provide a superior education for their children. If 200 parents sign a petition to say that their children's needs are not being met, and our schools should do a better job, the last thing that I will do is put that on the back burner. Board members may have 8 years to govern, but our children don't, and they deserve solutions now. Roger Rowe should be number 1 in all San Diego. Having the top scoring school in the county will not only prepare our children for life, but it will also support property values for all taxpayers living here, maintaining Rancho Santa Fe as the exceptional community that it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seitz?
Hello and good evening. I'm Paul Seitz. I want to thank you all for setting this up. I'm excited that all of you from the community are here. We need you. I can't wait to hear your questions. I set up last night going over what to talk about regarding myself. I could talk about being homeless, being one of 13 kids, growing up in foster homes, joining the Marines, my time in foreign countries fighting for our country where I led hundreds of Marines to the most dangerous places in the world, the military awards I've earned, my career with training horses, or my amazing family. Yes, those all help make me who I am today. However, we're here for something more important than me, our school. Our small town Rancho has a big election for this year for the school board. Our school is not what it was a few years ago. The place was magical. You'd walk to the school in the morning and the teachers and the staff were out in the hallways talking to each other, enjoying a cup of coffee while smiling, saying hi and giving hugs to their students. Our campus looked amazing. Our kids had every resource to excel. Our test scores were high and we were proud. We're a long way from that school. We've had someone walk into our school in the middle of the day and steal property. We all know about that we had that substitute teacher that was arrested by the FBI for child pornography. However, did you know that it happened to some of our Roger Rowe students? Our enrollment is down. We waste money on litigation instead of giving families and services they need to help their children. The easy-go excuse is, we had a pandemic. Okay, so we did. So did the rest of the world. And yes, we did stay open during COVID, and yet our test scores are still lower than the local scores where we were taught on Zoom. We need board members that want to make this school the best it can be, not dumb it down, then send their kids to a private school. We need leaders that can make a decision and do what they still...
Thank you. Mr. Manghani?
Thank you. Most of you guys already know me and my family. My name is Jee Manghani, and my wife and Rosu and I moved to the ranch over 12 years ago after we saw this magnificent school and the streets is no traffic. We said we needed to move here, and we made it our home. And we have 2 children, both who are students here, and they will, at the end of 8th grade, be Roger Rowe lifers. And we have been Scholar Circle members for a number of years. I've had the honor of being elected to the school board in 2018 and have been serving the children and community since then. At the time, 2018 was a tough year for our district. There was a lot of uncertainty and disruption for the children. We had a huge deficit. The board was having a hard time coming to agreement on issues. At the time, I felt like I could use my skills to find common ground and consensus to get things done. And after you guys entrusted me with governing our precious school district, the board worked together to solve many problems. We never anticipated encountering a pandemic that would lead to most schools being shut down for in-person learning for an entire year, but we decided we'd be out and we would lead and we would reopen on the first day of 2020. And as well, we were the first district to return to normal back in February. So I believe our school needs to be out front and lead the rest of the county in the way in all things, and we're continually working towards that goal. But more than that, seeing the children thrive and grow motivates me to work hard as a board member. I look forward to discussing all the different issues that are on your guys' mind today so that you are informed on where we all stand on the school and how we're going to lead it in the right way.
Thank you. Most of these questions will be answered in 1 minute. If something's extremely complicated, we might give you a little more time. And you also don't have to take the whole minute if you can be more concise. All right, we're going to start with Mr. Zarku with the first question for 1 minute. How would you propose to work successfully with other board members in the school administration to carry out the duties of a board member? What role do you think you would play on the board?
So I've spent the past 7 years on the advisory board of the University of Idaho doing exactly that, working with board members to select a new university president, a new College of Business dean, to analyze the enrollment in the school and make projections on how we can grow the enrollment at the school. I'm a very pragmatic individual. I know my values and my fundamentals, but I know what's important to our school, and I've already been in communication with most of the members of our board, and I'm pretty confident that we can find solutions to move our school forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Seitz?
One of the biggest things you can do to help the board is be prepared before the board meeting. Don't be learning the paperwork or the problem right then on the table. Be open to suggestions and ideas. Stand your ground in what you believe in. And when you get outvoted 4-1 because they chose the other way, then that's your job to then back up that 4-man vote and make their idea the best possibility for the school, because you're a team. And the most important thing is the kids and our school being number one.
Mr. Manghani?
I go by the motto, be slow to speak and quick to listen. And I come in with core convictions, but I realize there's 4 other board members in the room plus the superintendent, and we all have our core convictions. So if I'm having a hard time coming to grips with what the group is thinking, I ask them to convince me. And it's not a challenge, it's just convince me, because I got to make this my conviction if I'm going to vote that way. And I've always done that, and my fellow board members can attest to that. I think the number one thing to your question is listening. Listening is the most important thing.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
I think every person running for the board or on the board wants what's best for the children. And so that makes our job easy because we can focus on that. If we keep coming back to the focus of the kids, giving a quality education, making them safe, listen with an open mind, be prepared for the board meetings, we can come to the best conclusion for the district.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Mr. Seitz. And this is about the performance of the administration. How do you feel about our current superintendent and principals, and how do you think they're performing?
Everybody knows I'm not a fan of what Donna did and how she came in, but I also know that the board kind of let her down. They made her do a bunch of stuff, and then they didn't give her all the support she needed, but more importantly, give her the direction that were important to us as Roger Rowe parents and whatnot. I'm not happy. Our scores are too low. We have people running to private schools at a fast rate. It's sad. We need to get people happy. We need our teachers happy. We need our parents happy. So I hope for the next leadership to come in to be a very positive, more inviting type atmosphere for this, because I'm not happy with what's happened.
Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question for a board member to answer because our duty is, as a board member, we're the employer of the superintendent, so we can't give public our performance review of her. But I think for what happened during the pandemic, we were the only school that was open. She was the only one with the skill set that could get it done on day one. I will tell you that, because we were the only public school open on day one. But I think looking forward, and I'm sure there'll be a question about the superintendent search, I think we need a superintendent who has a vision to make Roger Rowe the #1 school, not only in the county, but in the state. And I think that's the main thing I will be looking for as we move forward.
All right. Colleague Kim?
I think during the tenure that Donna has been here, she has kept the school open during the pandemic. And not only kept it open, she has improved the educational environment. She's implemented curriculum. She has hired a counselor. She's began 5 committees that give parents impactful input that was never done before at the school. So I think she has done a great job for our school. I'm looking forward to the new superintendent to take us to the next level. The principals are learning. I think it was a mistake on the side of the board to have the whole school under one principal, and I'm happy that there's a middle school principal now to focus on the middle school. I think that was a great need.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku?
As I mentioned in my opening statement, the superintendent has one job: to provide excellent education opportunities for our children. So let's just go over the numbers. I scores for the past 4 years show our school failing our kids. 47% of our children are below grade in math by 1 level or 2. 39% of our children are below grade level in reading by 1 or 2 levels. 2/3 of our students fail science. They're below grade in science. Kids struggle in high school once they leave Roger Rowe. Parents are unhappy and they're leaving our school. So I am not happy with the job that Donna or the principals have performed, no.
Thank you. All right, well, one of you guessed the next question. How do you propose to search for the best superintendent? And we'll start in reverse order with Mr. Manghani.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're getting a request for proposal from search firms. We have not decided, the board has not decided on whether to use a search firm or not. But we want to find someone who will help us recruit. So the best superintendents are not looking for another job. So those are the ones we need to recruit, meaning solicit them to apply to our district. So what I'll be looking for is someone who has high expectations for the children, for our staff, but not only that, but can understand how a small district operates, because it's very different from a large district. Superintendent cannot be in a back office like in most other districts in this district. So in this district, they need to interface with the parents very often and be very visible and be a public figure in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Seitz.
They talked about having a firm help us. I hope we look in many other different places. The most important thing to me with this is that we get a superintendent with experience. We are a very great destination to go to, and we need someone that wants to come here, but we need someone with experience. We got a black eye lately. Let's get our black eye away. Let's get a good leader that has experience and knows how to take some school from what they are to be better. We are lucky to have what we have, but we need to look everywhere, not just one certain area.
Mr. Zarku.
So if I was elected to the board, I would actually show a lot more urgency in starting the search for a new superintendent. The announcement of Donna's retirement was made more than 2 months ago, and we haven't even started looking for one. So that's a problem for me. I'd be looking for someone with the appropriate experience, somebody who's built a school along the lines of what our parents want, a school that gives our kids opportunities to develop their skill set, someone with honesty and integrity, and somebody, most of all, who puts our children first, and not their political or philosophical inclination towards education. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kim.
I am definitely looking for someone with experience. I think the board needs to take the lead on what the positives that we want to continue building at the school and have what the areas where we need growth so that we can come to agreement to know exactly what we're looking for in a superintendent. Everyone looks good on paper, and when you're out there looking for a new superintendent, you have to make sure that they are a great fit for our district. It's not just the experience of a superintendent, because in a large district, in a small district, you have to be able to roll up your sleeves and do some of the work because we don't have a big admin staff.
Thank you. The next question, or the next couple of questions, have to do with mathematic curriculum. And we'll start again with Mr. Manghani. Will you comment on the current math curriculum, and how would you have it altered, or do you want to have it altered?
Do I want to have a what? I'm sorry.
The math curriculum altered. What do you think of the math curriculum, and would you want to alter the math curriculum?
Well, I think looking at the test scores at the elementary school, our SBAC scores for math are 91%, 96%. Fifth grade is not 81%. So I think what we need to look at is what's happening in fifth grade. And I don't think it's so much of the curriculum that's going on there, but something else is going on. And I don't know if fifth grade is just a harder jump in difficulty. But my concern is about middle school. So that's why we hired Mr. Spengler as the principal for the middle school, because our SBAC scores there are 88% in sixth grade, which is decent, but I want to see that 90. Seventh grade is 80%, and eighth grade is 70%. So, and I'm talking 70% proficient in advanced, meaning meeting grade level standards. So I want Joel, Mr. Spengler, to see what's going on there and work on the math curriculum there. His specialty is math, so that plays to his strength.
Thank you. Mr. Seitz.
Decent isn't good enough for me. Jee talks about, the first K through 4th grade. Well, the foundation isn't good enough to take them to 5th grade, to take them to 6th grade, to take them to 7th, 8th, and 8th grade, and that's why it's failing. The curriculum is not a very good program. I think we need to reevaluate it and either fix it or get something better. Decent isn't good enough. No one came here for decent. We came here to be great, and we need to get it better.
Mr. Zarku?
So our math curriculum needs a complete revamp, in my opinion. There's many of our children who are below grade, as I mentioned earlier. There's many parents who are very unhappy about it. Our kids get to high school and they find themselves to be completely unprepared. They struggle with math. Our lowest scores happen to be in 7th and 8th grade. And while we're quoting SBAC numbers, because they make us look good, I-ready doesn't make us look good. The CASP makes us look really bad. So I'm all for a multi-level honors program that actually groups kids in 3 different levels of ability, gives them the ability to get the attention from the teachers that they require and they need, gives them the confidence to maybe raise the hand when they have a question, because if they're surrounded by kids with similar levels of ability, they will have that confidence. But if they're the last in the class and everybody else is up here, they will not have that confidence. What our school does today selects 3, 4 kids from each one of the classes and puts them in advanced math. Everybody else is below. So a kid who gets 100 or a kid who fails, it's in the same exact class, gets the same instruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
First, I have to take a few seconds to correct your numbers. When you say 30% are 1 or 2 grades below, that is taking the fall I-ready numbers, and they haven't been exposed to the grade level, the grade level that they're being tested on. So an incoming 4th grader is tested at 4th grade to see where they're at for I-ready. We are obviously dropping the ball when it comes to 5th to 8th grade math. This is when SBAC and I-ready scores start a downward trend. I think the adoption of curriculum and also we need continuing professional development has set the groundwork for differentiation in the classroom. The work in this has already begun this year with grade levels having access to SBAC scores and department teams conducting progress monitoring meetings to look at fall I-ready to help form group differentiation.
Thank you. Here's another somewhat complicated math question. I assume that you on the board or running for the board will understand it better than I. It says other local public schools have several streams for math and English. 200 parents signed a petition for a petition this year asking to have the same here. Are you in support of immediately instituting such a program? And we'll start with Paul Seitz.
Okay. I love honor systems. I think we should get one, but I think we need to build the base first. I don't want to have a bad base and just put an honor system in, because then what we do, we lose the lower end kids. I think we need to redo this math. We need to build it up and an honor system. We need to have the lowest kid have a place to go and the highest kid place to go. We don't put them all in one cookie jar and call it the same, right?
Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, so I'm waiting for a recommendation on how many streams or tracks we want. I personally think we should have the 2 that we already have. The problem is the gate. So the gate to get into advanced math is 95%, and I think that needs to be widened. I don't know if that's 80 or 85% on this entrance test, but I think we need to widen that gate. And you know, I've heard, well, if we did that, we might have half our kids in advanced math. And my question to that is, so what? Let them be in there if they can handle it. But 2, the other part of it is that if they don't maintain 85%, they're actually taken out and brought back to regular math. So that's a problem in middle school, because now they're retaking last year's math when they're brought back out of advanced math. So I think we also need to stop that, and I would be looking forward to a recommendation to not do that and allow, if a parent and child decides that they want to be a 75% student in advanced math, that's their choice. Let them decide that.
All right. Ms. Kim?
I am in support of an honors program, advanced program, project-based program, any effective initiative that will challenge and engage our students. I am not in support of any program that's quickly implemented just to check the box that we have an honors program. In the past, we have had initiatives that don't live up to their labels just to say we have them. This wastes resources and does not benefit the kids. I think for the advanced math, the bridge program needs to continue, and I'm in favor of the grade skip and the honors level for middle school, so our children are able to take integrated math to honors in high school.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku.
I'm going to take a couple of seconds to address something that Ms. Kim said earlier. So while the I-ready may be taken in the fall, those are the numbers that Donna presented to you guys as a board, as a representation of our school. And the CAS, which is the California Accountability Test, is taken in April on the 21st. And that shows 2/3 of our kids below grade in science, and a third below grade in math. Going to streams, as many of you know, I'm the person who propagated that petition around the school to push exactly for that program. And all you all need to do is just take a look at the schools in our area who are ranked significantly higher than our own. They all have streaming programs. My son attended Earl Warren, 7th and 8th grade. They have it. It's great. It's open for kids to move up and down. They're being held accountable. There's no requirement for testing to go from one level to the next. However, you do need to hold your grade to a B and above. That makes complete sense to me, and I think it makes complete sense to the 200 parents who signed that petition. And do I want to implement it immediately? No, but I would send a delegation tomorrow to Earl Warren, all the schools around us, to find out what are these people doing better than we are. And they have their curriculum online for all to see. Please go look. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question has to do with funding. Given that our district raises about $1 million through the foundation for the benefit of its students, that's in quotes, and we have the lowest student-to-teacher ratio, and we are open all along, why should we rank number one? I'm reading it the way it's written. I would like to maybe, to simplify, how do you think the $1 million raised by the foundation should be spent on the children? And we'll start with Ms. Kim.
The $1 million that's raised by the foundation goes into our operating budget. And I think we have a balanced budget that has saved for our gym repairs, for iPad replacement, and we've been very fiscally responsible, and I would like to see that continue. I think continuing the professional development of the teachers and bringing the money into the classroom is the best use of the money, to not adding programs and adding teachers to increase more staffing than what we need with the enrollment at the district.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku.
Thank you. So I don't have much visibility into how the school spends that $1 million or whatever it is a year. Our school is not really known for transparency. But I'll say this. Every dollar the school raises should go towards our children's education. So any program that makes them do better in math, writing, reading, and science, I would be for it. Obviously in a smart and measured approach, but that should be the focus. And if that requires maybe teachers' trainings to bring them up to speed on certain things, so be it. I'm not familiar with the needs of facilities and all that around here, but obviously that would come into consideration as I would learn more about it. But the kids should always be first. Thank you.
Mr. Seitz?
Yeah, it's simple. Use it. Use it for what we need. We don't need to have a $500,000 surplus at the end of the year ever. If we're going to get $1 million and we use $999,000 plus $2, then that's what we do. right? We go over it. We got to make sure our kid gets the best education possible. Yeah, we got to have our savings, but we have a $5 million endowment. And when I talk to some of the older generations that are very protective of that, they have no problem using some of it if we need it. It's a rainy day fund. It's so our school can get through anything when it needs to be done. Use it, so our kids don't lose it.
Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, so I always view it as an informal contract. The parents give a lot of their money, and we promise them small class sizes, 20 to 1. We don't have that anywhere in a public school district, anywhere in San Diego County. So that is what we promised. $1 million effectively employs about 9 to 10 teachers with the cost of $100,000 to $120,000 each. So that allows us one extra teacher at every grade level. So if you have 80 kids at a grade level, you have 4 classes instead of 3, and that's how you can stay 20 to 1. So that's my number one priority, has always been small class sizes. I've never wavered from that, and we got to maintain a responsible budget. Otherwise, we will not be able to fulfill that informal contract with the parents of the community.
Thank you. Next, are we finished with this question? I lost my place. I
Yeah,
was
I
looking
think-
for the next question. Have
I
you all
think we
answered
did.
the question?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. You have to help me along here. Let's start with, Ms. Kim again. This is a question about improving school safety. What can we do to improve school safety? And I'm assuming this means the safety of, the physical safety of the students. This question, there are other questions that come later.
We have implemented all the recommendations that were advised by the safety consultant that came in. We've put in electronic locks, raised the fencing, have the front door camera. We've taken steps to make the campus physically safe. I believe a truly safe school is where kids can learn in a welcome environment without intimidation or fear. And I think we have to work more on the safety of our kids and their feeling of non-intimidation out on the playground and in the classroom. I think that's where we have the most work to do.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku.
So we've had some issues with our safety at the school. Somebody wandered into our school, stole some private property. Our cameras work sometimes they don't work. They were down for a couple of weeks recently, and that's just not a great plan for our school to protect our children. What I would do if I was on the board, I would have the Rancho Santa Fe Patrol in front of our school and around our school pretty much at all times. That's the best deterrent for any ideas from anybody to get into our school. The next thing I would do is I would implement much better hiring practices at our school to keep out of our school any potential sexual miscreants and things along those lines. I would screen the new hires to the full extent of the law. I would go and check their personal, public pages on any social media possible, and I would pay attention to the things that they put online, because they do tell us a lot. The next thing I would do is I would probably have better supervision on our playgrounds at school. We've had some incidents at school, and that needs to stop. Thank you.
Yeah, we spend a lot of money to get these cameras put in, but a lot of things that's happening at the school, things get done and then they're not paid attention to afterwards. The cameras are down often, the locks don't work often. We don't have enough teachers or parapros up on the playground to make sure that kids are in a safe environment. We could do ID tags on teachers to let them know, hey, oh, that's for sure a teacher. You know, you're just doing simple things. And more importantly, don't implement something that you're not going to make sure is staying functional. You know, what good is a camera if it never works? You know, we need a lot more teachers and we need a lot more, interaction with the community as well. We need more parents doing stuff. We have a lot of parents that are up there watching the kids during lunches and recesses, and we need stuff like that. But we have to make sure stuff works. Teachers need training on what to do for school shootings, little things like that. All right, that's it.
Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, honestly, 1 minute is very short for this segment, but I could go through a laundry list of what we've done, and I'll piggyback on Callie's list. But one of the main things is we got the RSF patrol back on for drop off and pickup when they were having a hard time being able to do that. But now they're back. Callie and Adele have been really great with working with SEL, because that's a really important thing about school safety, is making sure the kids have strong emotional and social health. And one of the other big things that I want to point out is that Ben and Jeff Pitt recently went to a safety training, and they were looking at different software where they can alert the parents if there's anything going on at the school. And that will be a great way to alert us immediately over text message. And I suggested, well, we should have like a dad squad who's ready to come to the campus if there's something immediate. We get a text message and we're there. And Bill will join me. I know he will. But I mean, there are many things that we can do to improve it further.
Thank you. All right, you led into this, and we'll start with you, Mr. Manghani, and go this way. This is about the current social and emotional curriculum and future ideas. What are your thoughts about the current social, emotional curriculum, and what are your ideas for the future?
Well, I think it's great. We never had such a devotion to this subject for the kids. So they have Monday or morning meetings, Monday through Thursday, and then they have the Friday on the field on Fridays, so, which is the outdoor assembly. So I think that's a great way. My son looks forward to it. I'm sure a lot of your kids look forward to that. But I think utilizing Carly Bork in a greater way is important. I know she's focused a little more at the elementary school, but there's a plan this year to have her focus more at the middle school level. But utilizing her as our school counselor, I think, is a bigger thing. If you haven't been up to her office, it's amazing. She has lava lamps and a really cool Zen-like place to hang out. But I think having her really take the lead, she's new to the school, but having her take the lead going into the future is important because that's her expertise. And as well as having parents who are offering to help for free. I mean, we love your volunteer service. So I'm pointing to them because they're the ones.
Thank you. Mr. Seitz?
I think anything that gets the kids together, even if it's not my favorite, kumbaya stuff, whether it's sports, hanging out, book clubs, we need to keep more social things going. We need to implement all the things we had. The library used to be a cool social thing for people to hang out. We don't really have a library now where they go hang out anymore. So we need to introduce more things to get more social groups. We need a lot more parents because if you look around, there's about 5 parents that you see every week. So we need about 30, 40 more of you girls and guys. So.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku?
I have to say I'm a little confused by the question. I'm not sure exactly what's meant by social and emotional services at a school. My belief is that the social and emotional services should be provided by the parents mostly. To the extent that kids have needs to address, I guess it's great for the school to have a counselor for certain situations. But I think kids tend to rely on each other emotionally a lot of times, so playing sports together, going to the library together, which I just found out that it's no longer available for some reason, which I think it's a terrible idea and needs to be corrected. So my thought goes to, when it comes to social and emotional, that's really the function of the parents to make sure they support their parents. Not sure how much the school needs to be involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
I think we've had a good start with the social emotional learning program, starting with the teachers and staff looking at curriculum for that. I'm happy to see that the committee now has parents to get involved with the process. The monthly SEL skill focus in the classroom tying in with Friday on the field, I think it just enforces the 3 R's that are trying to live by at the school. I think staff participating, I think that's a lot. It's going well in the grade school, but middle school is where we really need to work on some of the SEL. I think staff outside of the classroom, we've done a great job increasing presence out on the playground for elementary school. But staff outside their classroom, interacting with students so they feel connected, and students having pride in their actions as well.
Thank you. I think we'll start with Ms. Kim again. How do you feel about using the No Place for Hate curriculum, which comes from the ADL, all while the ADL is promoting literature about gender identity to 4-year-olds?
I think the No Place for Hate, the way the Student Council uses it in middle school, is a great option for them. They're making friends during lunchtime. The middle school are reaching out to grade school, making sure everyone's included and they don't feel isolated out on the playground. I think the middle school student council enjoys participating in that program, so I like it for them.
Mr. Zarku.
So ADL is a political organization, and their message has no place in our school. We talk about our kids enjoying their time and socializing under a political sort of umbrella. That's wrong. Does not belong in our school, and I'm completely opposed to it.
All right. Mr. Seitz.
ADL started in the right direction many, many years ago, but it took a wrong turn. It's trying to force this dynamic of way of life on people, and they hide behind this saying like, oh, you don't want everyone to be happy and you don't want everyone to hate on each other? No, everybody wants everybody to get along. But it's this ideology that they're trying to do. And I don't care what you believe in. The politics should stay out of school. It's about the kids' education. It's about the kids staying young. If they don't stay young, we ruin their childhood. ADL needs to go.
Mr. Manghani.
Yeah, and Annette and I had this conversation when it was brought to my attention last week. I want to review the curriculum to make sure there's nothing political in there, because politics does not belong in our school. This should be an apolitical place, and kids should feel free to be kids and not get dragged into the left-right thing at school. I do have a problem with, okay, this message came from this person, so now I don't like this message anymore. We're going down a wrong path if we're going down the path of banning books. If we'd start doing that, we need to look at what's being said, not who said it, and leave it at that. If the ADL came up with this curriculum, but the curriculum is just fine and it presents a great non-political message, I'm fine with it. If there's a political message, then we need to modify it and do something with it.
Thank you. Now I think we'll start with Mr. Seitz and go Mr. Seitz, Ms. Zarku, Ms. Kim, and then Manghani. Okay, these are financial questions. Over the past couple of years, there have been necessary financial reductions in staffing to get the budget balanced. However, over the years, office and administrative staff spending has continued to grow. If you're elected to the board, how will you handle this issue? And we're starting with Mr. Seitz.
This is probably one of the hardest things for a lot of people to understand, because we have to get on budget, we know that. But you gotta do it the right way, and you gotta do it slow. Otherwise, you open up doors and you make yourself weak. We fired so many teachers and very little admin. In fact, no admin at the time. So what happens, now we have to hire a bunch of substitute teachers. Well, one of those substitute teachers was a child pedophile, whatever, I don't even know what you call them now. We have to do it right. You have to do it smart. You can't just get on budget and then think everything's going to be okay. You got to start rebuilding. Learn to get more money, you know. We don't need to be so top heavy on our admin. We're way too top-heavy. We need more teachers. We need more present around the kids, not in the office.
Thank you. Next.
I'll go. So it's hard to answer a question about a budget that I'm not really privy to. What I'll say is this, though. I am in agreement with budgets having to be balanced, no doubt about it. Going into debt is probably not a great idea. However, if our children are suffering like they did in the past 4 years from the staff reductions, I would take a different approach. But again, I would need to see the numbers in order to make some suggestions here. One thing I'll say, we have a superintendent, and we have 2 principals in a small school of 600-some students. Seems a little excessive to me. So those could be some of the things that we could look at. Cutting down an entire science department while we have so much admin at the top doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So again, I would need to have information regarding the budget to make some suggestions. Just, drawing from just general statements is tough to suggest proper measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
We have many advantages with being a small one-school district. The disadvantage is you still have all the requirements of any other district to run a one-school district as the 5 or 6 school district. We need a superintendent. I'm in full support of the 2 principals, a principal at each school. We tried the one principal for both schools, and I think we see the results of our middle school slipping. We need to focus on the middle school. We need to staff it appropriately and have someone take the lead so that we can make changes to continue the growth in middle school.
Thank you. Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, so at many tenure levels of our teachers, we're the 3rd highest paid. And in fact, if you took a teacher from Oceanside who's served for 11 years, they bring over 4 years of service, so they start as a 4-year teacher here. They get a pay raise over Oceanside. And there are many other school districts that you face the same thing. So first of all, that's that. We are compensating our teachers very well. We'll continue to compensate them too. There was a period of 6 years where they got 0% on-schedule raises. And when I got on the board, I thought that will never happen again. They got 4%, 2%, 2%, 2%. So they've gotten raises every year since I've been on the board. 3, I would say, as far as admin, like our superintendent is actually one of the lowest paid in San Diego County, $209,000. Most superintendents are paid $250 or more. And you might say, well, that's a small school district, but you have to ask yourself, if someone works 9 hours a day, do they get paid less or more?
Thank you. Here's another budget or financial question, and we'll start with Mr. Zarku, and then go to Ms. Kim down there. Okay. This is basically asking about the effect of a possible recession. We are likely entering a recession. The budget surplus of the state of California will likely dry up. Is having a balanced budget important to you? What programs at Roe would you support, and what would you cut if it comes time that we enter a budget deficit? And we'll start with Mr. Zarku.
So balanced budgets are obviously very important for a state, for a family, for a school. Again, it's tough for us who are not on the board to suggest programs to cut without having the full visibility into what things really cost and where the value comes from, what adds value, what doesn't. One thing I will say, again, as a community that has great resources, before I would start chopping our entire science department, perhaps I would have a conversation with the foundation, perhaps have a conversation with the parents, be open about it and say, we have some budgetary problems due to the recession. Can the community come together and perhaps help plug that hole? So there's different ways of approaching shortfall of dollars, available dollars. But again, it would be great to have the visibility into what the budget really is and where our money goes to give further suggestions. Thank you.
Ms. Kim?
Going into a recession, it's worrisome because we have continuing pressures placed upon us by the government, the same government that wants to not give us any funding. A majority of our funding comes from property taxes. The government, though, does not reimburse us for full special education costs. We always have to make up the difference with that, and that's a big hit on the budget. And they have recently made mandatory free meals regardless of financial need. So that's another strain on the budget. If I had to cut anywhere, I would cut technology and see if we could find a way to do it less in that area.
All right, Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, so since we're basic aid, as Callie alluded to, our property taxes fund most of it, and that's going to be fairly steady unless there's a major housing crash and everyone wants to reassess their properties, which I don't see happening. We only get somewhere around $1 million from the state out of $14.3 million that we're going to get this next year. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about the ability of the parents to give to the Education Foundation if a recession hits. So when we get to that point, we'll look at it. But I mean, I've always said we're always going to operate in the black. That was my promise in 2018, and that's going to be my promise going forward. We will operate in the black and be responsible for our kids' kids. I'm thinking 20 years down the road.
Thank you. Mr. Seitz?
One thing I agree with Jee, we have a lot of money coming in consistently because we live in such a rich area. If we have to cut back stuff, I'd start at the top. I would start with the part that's the furthest away from the children. You don't start at the teacher, you don't start at the janitorial work, you start higher up. Do we need 2 principals at that time? Nope. If you have a good leader, they can help in other areas. It doesn't mean if I have a bad leader, I hire more people, but what I do is cut down from the top. I shave off. You want to stay on, we might have to do negotiations on your salary, whatever. But you start from the furthest away from the kids.
All right. Now we have a question about your personal experience. And let's see, which direction should we go in next?
It was Callie's next.
All right. Well, we'll start with
No, it
Mr.
was.
Zarku.
He was next over here.
By popular acclaim,
I don't care.
he's going first.
I'll go first. Whatever you want to do. I'll go first.
You can arm.
But I was pretty sure it's that way.
All right. We'll start with Mr. Zarku.
Okay.
What experience do you have working on a board? And give an example of what you've done to work together with others in a difficult situation. They want you to give an example.
As I mentioned earlier, I've been on the advisory board of the University of Idaho, my alma mater, since 2015. We've accomplished many things since I've been on the board. I mentioned earlier we actually selected a new university president, which is a pretty tough job to accomplish, somewhat similar to obviously searching for a superintendent, probably a little bit more difficult. So we conducted a search that was nationwide. We actually attracted a gentleman who lived in New York, worked in New York, but he had roots in Idaho. He used to go to school there, as a matter of fact. So in that hire, there's a lot of give and take between board members. People have different ideas as to what direction we should take the school. And clearly a university of many thousands of students is a different problem than what we have here, much smaller scale. I've been involved in evaluating curriculum for the university, for the College of Business and Economics. Those are, again, hairy problems that require many hours of thought and agreement between board members. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Seitz can go next.
What experience do I have? I've owned businesses and whatnot. Have I been on a board? No. The good thing about a board, though, is usually you're dealing with people that are in your same little area. Being in the military, I'm dealing with someone from Arkansas, Puerto Rico, Maine, all over the world, and we have to come up together and get on a mission that our lives depend on. So I have lots of experience that way. I know what it takes to be a good leader, and know when you make mistakes, you have to admit it and you have to listen to your other people. And more importantly, you got to know when you're wrong, and you got to know when you're right, and you got to make those decisions. And the worst decision you can make is no decision at all.
Mr. Manghani?
Yeah, so I was part of a board of a startup company that I also was an employee at, and the school board right now. And I mean, the way you work with people is to respect them. You have to respect them. If you can't, I seek to convince people, not coerce. I seek for them to convince me. It doesn't work well when you go in and you think, and I hope I've never done this to my fellow board members, but you think you know it all, and then it just turns really bad because they look at you and go, look, you're the same as us. You're one of five. And, you know, some people might think, well, as president, I make decisions. I'm only president for a year. I make my one decision, but in the end, it's a board vote. It's, 3-2 passes something at a minimum. So I think respecting the other people on the board, their experiences and their skill sets, it works better when you're diverse in terms of skill sets.
Thank you. Ms. Kemp?
The only board experience I've had is the recent experience serving on the school board. But I am the board president at home, and I think I've learned that listening is the number one skill that you have to develop serving on a board. There's some tough decisions, and you have to, if you don't listen to the past, to hear what everyone has learned and from their experiences, you're bound to make the same mistakes going forward. So I think the key is listening to bring everyone together.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with you again. And then, this person writes, there is a trend to, in quotes, lessen the gap in education to promote equity. What are your views on this?
Can you repeat that one more time?
There is a trend to lessen the gap in education and promote equity, and equities in quotes. What are your views on this?
I think this is the worst thing that we can do for our kids. It's challenging enough to keep our advanced learners or quick learners challenged and growing in the classroom. I will never be against an effective advanced class for the students that can thrive in those classes. Bringing the top down isn't the answer for everyone to do better. It's bringing the bottom up, challenging the middle and the cusp, and challenging have the advanced learners continue to grow so they can reach their highest potential.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku.
If one looks up the definition of equity in the dictionary, or you Google it, you'll find that it leads to equality of outcome. So this is an idea that promotes all of us being equal in results. Some of you know I grew up in a country, Romania, which is a communist country, most of my adult life living there and my childhood. So this is basically a new marketing ploy for Marxism, where the main tenet of communism is to each according to his needs, from each according to their ability. That is what equity means, and it has absolutely no place in our school. That is a political ploy to move our kids in a direction where we do not want to go. I promise you that. Thank you.
Mr. Seitz.
Can you read that again, please?
All right, let me find it. I think I put it away. There is a trend to, quote, lessen the gap, unquote, in education and promote equity, and equity is in quotes. What are your views on this? Now, I didn't write these questions.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate that. Thank you for reading that again. The only gap that I want to lessen is the gap that other schools have above us. We need to be teaching our less educated kids and our highest educated kids differently. Give everybody a chance to do that. Give everybody a chance to excel at what they are, and then give everybody a chance to get better than what they are. If we have this basic, let's get everybody through, everybody gets a trophy type mentality, we're not going to be very productive. We're going to have a lot of average people in this world, and that's not why we're here.
Thank you. Mr. Manghani.
Yeah, my parents are from India, and the first line of their constitution is, we affirm the socialist practice is the best way to do it. And that's what this definition of equity is we don't want the ones who are going to be left behind to feel bad, so we're going to hold back the ones who can do more. I think, I believe it's not equity when you're holding people back. I think equity is real equity in the way the state or the current political climate defines it is wrong. Real equity is allowing every person to do what they can and give them free carte blanche to do it, free market. That's what I've always believed in, and I believe that's strongly in education. So, like I mentioned earlier, advanced learning. If half the kids are in there, and we, up to this point only wanted 5% in there, half the kids are in there, great. If all the kids are in there, I'm fine with that. If they can qualify to get in there, let's widen the gates. So I would prefer to redefine equity, but as the questioner was alluding, I don't believe in that version.
Thank you. Many of the questions revolve around what would you change first? What is your most important priority when you first come on the board? And for example, here's a question. If you become a member of the school board, what is the first thing you would like to change? And there are several about that, whether it's about curriculum or the social atmosphere in the school or whatever. So why don't we start with Mr. Manghani? What would you currently are a board member, but is there something in particular that you would like to work on first?
Yeah, our number one priority right now is the superintendent search, but I already alluded to that. I'll go with number two is I told our Donna, for me, and I'm just speaking as a solo board member, it's an uncompromising goal that we need to have some kind of honors advanced thing in January at the middle school level. And to me, that's imperative that we start something. It's more likely to happen with ELA, reading or writing or writing. But that's my number one thing. And it takes time to do it, but the reason why I would want it in January, not earlier, is because you got all these middle schoolers who are happy with their, it's been 1 minute, all right. Oh, okay. I was like, wow, that was the fastest 1 minute I've
We have a distraction.
All right, so 30 seconds now. Okay, so we don't want to disrupt the middle schooler schedules. I know many middle schoolers, this is a tough time for them. And to have them change friends in the middle of October is a non-starter for me. And we'll have crying kids saying, I love my classes, I love my friends in my classes. So, January is my number one priority to get something implemented at the middle school level.
All right, Mr. Seitz?
The first thing I would change is the way the board runs. I want to say to the new board members, I'm really proud of you. I see change. I see you guys trying. You're doing things that are different. I love it. The first thing I would do is change how we work. We'd be working as a team. I'd hold your feet to the fire, and I expect you to hold my feet to the fire. We got to get a superintendent that's excellent, that makes our school stand out. But the first thing I would change is making sure that the board runs as a team, an efficient team.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku?
Well, if I'm elected to the board, the first thing I would do is focus on the multi-tier advanced education program that we've been talking about, the honors program. In order to achieve that, what I would do is I would probably vote to allow Donna to move on and let the school focus on its future without a superintendent who will not be here anymore, be involved in every decision that the school makes. I think that's a mistake. Donna is philosophically inclined to not believe in multi-tier educational programs, and she's been opposed to it all along. So in order to accomplish the best for our children, I would like to see her go and wish her well on their next opportunity and focus on hiring a new superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, who's next? Are you?
I think it's me.
Okay.
I would focus on, the first thing I want to focus on is middle school. It's evident that, especially in math, we're obviously dropping the ball. It's fifth through eighth grade is where they start trending down in their scores. And this is also when math becomes less about calculations and more abstract. I think the new curriculum and the professional development is placing the groundwork for this, but the work has to be differentiating and challenging in the classroom. The advanced math in the middle school has to be taught at an honors pace and an honors depth. If we want to prepare our kids in advanced math to be successful in an honors level 2 class in high school, it needs to be taught that way in middle school. Okay.
Thank you. Before we go to the closing statements in a couple minutes, I want to give you some information about voting in the upcoming November election. The League has on the table over there several pamphlets and pieces of information. One is the Easy Voter Guides, and there's a bookmark for Voter's Edge, and that's votersedge.org. And it's an excellent website to get information straight from the candidate's own posting. And if any of the candidates here have not posted on Voter's Edge yet, I encourage you to do so because it is very popular with the public. Because the candidates answer questions, there are links to their own websites if they have one, there are media clips, and there's also information about campaign contributions. And this is for all levels, from the governor on down. So now let's go to the candidates' closing statements of no more than 2 minutes, and we'll start with Mr. Manghani.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, League, for hosting this. I believe we're at a big inflection point for our school. We're starting the search for a new superintendent to take us to another chapter in our school's history. And there's already some uncertainty in the children's and community's minds. We have to navigate this in a steady and responsible way, which is how I've always governed. Anticipating future possibilities is important so that you can have backup plans ready. Having communication to the community that is calming, reassuring, respectful, that's important when you lead a community like ours. It's especially important to our staff who spend thousands of hours here every year doing a fantastic job. They need to feel valued and treasured. And I've always said I would be a responsive board member. And as we teach our kids core values and leadership through serving and respect, I've always conducted myself in a manner that would give everyone confidence that I lead through listening, caring, being responsive to everyone reaching out. And some of you guys are surprised I call within 5 minutes at times. I've always placed more importance on listening than talking. Cooperation was what I prized myself in and others around me. This is a special school district. We have small class sizes, classes that meet the needs of all students, many enrichments, and staying fiscally responsible. These are things that I want to work on, and it's a tradition that we've sought to continue as a board, and I want to continue for one more term. You guys don't have to wonder how I'll govern. I ask you for your vote so that we can keep the school in steady and responsible hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seitz.
We have to get back to that school that we love and we can be proud of. We need board members that want to make this school the best it can be, not dumb it down, then send their kids to a private school. We need leaders that can make a decision to do what they say they will do, not someone that is playing Mr. Politician with no real answers. We need people on this board that will stand for what they believe in, and when the vote doesn't go their way, they back the board up and make that decision the best it can be, because it's a team. I'm hardworking, driven, not afraid to make things happen. What you see is what you get. I believe in leading by example. I will tell you the truth. I will always be open to new ideas and will answer your questions with 100% transparency. Remember, keep the kids young and keep the kids first. You can find me on rsfcowboy.com.
Thank you. Mr. Zarku.
All right, I'm going to close the night by telling you all why I believe I'm qualified for this role. I've spent the past 7 years on the advisory board of the University of Idaho. During that time, the board helped conduct searches for a new university president, as well as a new College of Business and Economics dean. The board also analyzed yearly budgets, conducted analysis on enrollment numbers, and established a plan to attract in-state as well as out-of-state students to grow enrollment numbers. We evaluated the curriculum and direction of the College of Business and Economics to make sure students received the best value for their money. As a university board member, I am keenly aware of the importance of a strong foundation in early education and its impacts on future success in higher education and career. I spent my 27-year Wall Street career managing large trading businesses for several global financial services firms, having responsibility for budgets, P&L, and staffing. During that time, I have interviewed and hired many people of various backgrounds, building several very successful teams and businesses in the process. I've spent almost 2 decades on executive committees at these firms, working with my colleagues to create strategic visions and directions for these organizations, devising budgets, employee retention plans, and evaluation metrics. But I'm also a father of 3 boys, a college student, high school student, and a grade school student. I am well aware of the impact early education has on our children's futures because I've experienced this with my 2 oldest sons. Not getting the appropriate preparation early on has an impact on students' secondary education and potentially on their future. If your child gets stuck on the wrong track, they may never have access to the college of their dreams. So we have to get this right as our kids go to Roger Road potentially for 9 very important and decisive years of their young lives. Please visit my candidate website, CristianZarcu.com, to learn more about my campaign. And if you like what you see, please vote for me on November 8th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Kim.
Culture, bringing back the deep Roger Road history of participation for the benefit of the school and commitment to the community. We need participation by parents being involved in the classroom and in conferences when they're updated with their students' progress. We need participation with giving feedback from all on surveys and getting that feedback in a loop so they hear what we're going to do with that feedback. We need participation from the staff being available to students before and after school, interacting during breaks. Students need to participate by having pride in their actions and holding each other accountable for their actions. This participation results in a culture of dignity and school pride. If re-elected, I will fight to continue the improvement of the district's curricula, professional development, and tools in the classroom to achieve growth for all students and engagement. I will work collaboratively to lead the creation of a living mission and vision in the district. I believe a truly safe school is a place where learning can occur in a welcoming environment, free of intimidation, violence, and fear. We are one community composed of many families representing a broad range of viewpoints, cultures, and backgrounds. I want every student, parent, and staff to be treated with dignity.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. I want to thank the audience for submitting so many good questions. We didn't get to all of them, but perhaps you will have a chance to talk to some of the candidates individually right at the end. You were a respectful and quiet audience, but now it's time to applaud our candidates who are I sincerely want to thank candidates for their willingness to run for public office. And they really are making democracy work. And let's give them another round of applause.